How are you today? Try to get this camera right. Whew. Hello, Aaron Baker. I owe you a calendar appointment. You said something so profound in a comment. I believe it was to happening now. I believe it was to a post that Michelle Lane asked about with the respect to the way that we take care of ourselves. And I thought it was so powerful, and I thought that your response was really, sorry, this light is being weird. I thought it was really awesome, so I was excited to talk with you about that. Hello, everyone that's joining, Terry and Ibrahim and Michael, what's up? How are you? I hope everybody's doing well. I had a really interesting time sitting with this conversation for this live today in my thinking about what I can't wait to hear about it. In thinking about what I wanted to kind of bring present inside of these conversations, right? What I wanted to, sorry, as I move you, what I wanted to talk about, what I wanted to open up, the conversation that I wanted us to be able to have today. And it was earlier in the week, I believe it was Monday, and I was in bed, and I was just in this state of, perhaps meditation would be the right word, in the moments before I actually got up and got into my day, and then before, like while I wasn't asleep but I wasn't quite awake yet, I'm really thinking about what was on my heart. And then I say actually thinking about what was on my heart, I don't think that's right. I think I was just allowing my intellect to be sort of in that hazy space so that I could let the message from my heart speak out, and authenticity came up for me. And this, if you know anything about my journey inside of personal development, this was something that I didn't realize how badly I was craving it until I got exposed to it. And the first time that I was exposed to somebody who was totally authentic and in their truth, it freaked me out so bad. And I can only say that now. I don't think at the time I recognized it as being a freak out, but my reaction was actually, it was around something I was reading, and my reaction was to slam the computer shut. Like that was the first thing that I did. Like I read this person's truth and immediately like closed down the computer. So if you're willing, and it's okay if you want to just hang out and listen in, but if you're willing, share with me in the comments. I'd love to know how you define authenticity, what that word means to you. I'm not asking you to Google it, right? I did that already. It means like being authentic. But like, what does that actually mean to you? And then how do you relate to it? There are a lot of things that go on in this world that we don't know about until we know about them. And what I mean by that is that when we are growing up and living in the world that we're living in, and then we're seeing the world through our own eyes and through our own perspectives, what is true to us is based on the experiences that we have. And so for me, much of my world growing up was manufactured. And it was manufactured because there was a sense of false, but a sense of stability and security inside of perfection, inside of presenting an image that we believed other people wanted to see from us. And so anything about like myself, who I was, my attitude, my choices, the things that I liked, the people that I liked and wanted to hang out with and spend time with, if they didn't look good or make the people that were around me look good, then I just over time learned that that was not okay. And I share in my book that it's not as if my mom and I sat down and had a conversation about this, right? It's not, none of this, at least in my family, was a conscious, okay, Michelle, here's how this works, here's how the world works. It's just things that I picked up on over time. And what happens for a lot of us, and I'll speak only to myself here, is that when I did put myself out in the real, authentic, like, hey, this is me, I got hurt. And what hurt means is different for some people. There are some people who got abused physically, emotionally, or mentally. Some people who got, bullied or made fun of inside of a school situation. Sometimes somebody just experienced rejection or they experienced a failure. And all of those we take on as traumas, and then we learn that it's not safe for us to be our authentic, true self. And so then we start the process of hiding. And for most of us, this happens before we turn 7 years old. Hello, Camila. Erin said, it is being open and vulnerable and showing everyone the version of me that I see. Can you explain what you mean when you say the me that I see? And I love that V word, vulnerable. There's such a, I think there's such a mixed kind of connection and attachment to that word and how we hold on to it and define it. And so many of us that feel that it's dangerous and risky and like we could get hurt. And then what I know for sure is that if I'm not showing you, what I call myself is, for me, it's like the real Michelle, right? So if I'm not showing you the real Michelle, if I'm not showing you the authentic version of me, and I'm showing you the suited up, masked up, perfected up, perfect, polished, pretty, whatever version of me that I think that you want to see, then it's almost as if there's like a wall, right, between me and you. And so when I meet you, I'm meeting you like this, right? So like I'm meeting you behind the paper, and maybe I do kind of poke out a little bit just to see if I'm going to get hurt. And a lot of us are trying to move through the world and make connections and build relationships as a not us version of ourselves, and then we're connecting with other people who are also they're not the real version of themselves. They're the not version of themselves as well. And so then it's just our walls that are meeting our walls. And literally there's no connection. And if we want to really experience that open vulnerability that Erin spoke about, we have to be willing to, however you language it, take the wall down, take the mask off, take the suit off. I say get naked. And I don't want to speak this into your experience, but for me, That process was terrifying because I spent so many years of my life crafting this wall, right? It's like I spent all of this time and all of this effort and energy, and I put a lot of work into this perfect presentation, and now you just want me to knock it all down. And then the other piece of that is I had spent so much time living behind the mask, I didn't even know who I was without it. And that journey of getting to know me, I mean, it's been one of the most beautiful things that I've ever done. And I think it's beautiful like childbirth, where it doesn't mean that it's not painful and that there aren't moments where you're squatting with your hands on your knees, screaming at the top of your lungs, but it's exquisite. It really means there's no distinction between the person that I show up as when I'm alone and the person I show up as when I'm around others. I love that, Erin. Yeah. And let me ask you this, Erin, since you say that specifically, is it less exhausting for you? Because I know for me, I didn't realize how tired I was moving through the world trying to hold up this fake identity. Like, I had no idea how much lighter I could feel, how much happier I would be, how much younger I would look, how much like more just liberated. I mean, really, I would feel it's like I had been carrying around this weight that I didn't even realize I had been carrying for so long. And so many times we just get used to things, even if they're not real, right? We just get used to it and we take it and we own it. And then it's like wearing a jacket. You don't even realize that you're wearing the jacket anymore. You've been wearing it for so long. And Erin, I am curious if you're willing to share, have you always been this way, or was there, and you said 100% less exhausting, so I'm going to assume that there was a time then that you were not showing up in the world in that way. Oh, I love that, Lauren, what you just said. So true of me today. Was honest with my feelings, handled it maturely, not getting so worked up and getting angry. Congratulations. That's powerful. Yeah, and here's the thing, you know, Erin just said it's 100% less exhausting. The reality is we're trying to predict the future anyway, because we don't even know. So like we're trying to move through the world, and I'll just use those of you that are on this slide. I'm trying to move through the world then in my fear of being who I really am. And let me just say this as a little sidebar. Do you really, and it's okay if your answer is yes, but do you really believe that you came into this life at this time, whatever your religious or spiritual beliefs are? Do you really believe that you came here at this time to spend your whole life, to die, to go to your death, not living as yourself? So many of us have our hands around the throat of our soul, or we're standing on top of a coffin with her inside, and we're not letting that part of us be expressed. And we don't even realize that that's why our bodies are sick and are exhausted and are worn out, and we look older than we really truly are, because we are literally crushing. We are the ones doing it. We're crushing our own spirit instead of being committed to living that life fully expressed. And so many of us pretend that it's the fear of their judgments out there, that I don't know what they're going to think, and they're going to judge me and they're going to reject me. But the reality is the person that you are the most afraid of is the one that you see when you look in the mirror. And if you would commit to doing the work to healing that relationship, then all of this becomes a lot more simple. Otherwise, I mean, it's a continual and endless conversation of how can I be what this person needs me to be over here? And okay, I'm done there. And how can I be what this person needs me to be over here? And it's total you trying to predict what's going on inside of their head and what they need from you and what they need to see from you so that you can get their approval, which most people feel not enough in and of themselves. So most people don't even have inside of them to be able to give to you anyway. And even if they do, it's what I posted on social media earlier today. It's never enough. It's you're trying to fill this bucket that has no bottom because it's not them. It never was them. It always was you. Used to be scared shitless of showing up authentically. Yeah. Inside of that, Erin, and I appreciate those of you that are willing to engage in this. At the time, not now looking back, but at the time, what were you scared shitless about? For me, I was terrified that if I showed up as who I really was, that I would not be liked or approved of. And for me, in the early days, that piece, that was like, that meant that I was worthy, right? I was using you and your approval as a barometer for my enoughness. Exhausting. Absolutely, Lauren. No one is perfect. It actually doesn't even exist. And so we're in this hunt for something that's not even real. It doesn't exist. It's a complete bullshit story designed to keep us stuck perpetually in this story that will never match up. That will never be enough. It's insane. And the desire for it anyway disconnects us not only from other people in the world, but completely disconnects us from our own soul. I mean, it is a recipe for misery. And if you do not believe me and you know that you have been living or you are still living an inauthentic life, then look at your life. Are you really happy? Are you really fulfilled? Or are you like I was, where you go to bed every single night I would cry myself to sleep just hoping that somebody would see the real me, that would see the real me that I didn't want to show them, right? But that they would see the real me and that I would be loved and accepted for who I was. But my friends, the truth is that does not happen until you do that with you, until you are able to look in the mirror, until you are able to begin to do that work to heal your relationship with what you see. That has to come first. Otherwise, have you ever been, maybe you got dressed up and you were kind of uncertain about what you're wearing and you think you sort of look cute maybe, but you're not really sure. And you can go downstairs and you ask, hey babe, do I look cute? And they say, yeah, you look adorable. But because it doesn't match up with what you believe, then you maybe ask another friend, or maybe you ask your son or your daughter, or maybe you do go out, but you're constantly like, hey, do you like this? Does it like, do I look okay? And nothing that they say matters. It doesn't fill you because it's not in alignment with your beliefs about yourself. Period. Yeah, rejection. That's real. Hey, Elena. So when you say rejection, like not like somebody telling you that they don't like you, or somebody telling you that they don't like who you are, or that you don't fit in their club, like anybody that's willing, speak to me a little bit more about that. Fundamentally unlovable. That's real. Can anybody relate to that? Lauren says, I've learned to not care about what others think, but that takes time with the mind shift. I think that's why I can handle my crazy job sometimes. It's probably why the teacher in charge and I have good rapport. I don't actually know how to not care what other people think. I actually, personally, I haven't figured that out yet. What I have learned is not to let their opinions stop me. Because humans are, I mean, we're judgmental. I mean, that's what our brain judges things. That's how it functions. It's how it keeps us alive. So people are going to have their judgments, and they're going to have their judgments of me based on all of their own stuff, right? They're going to have their judgments of me based on their own experiences, their beliefs, their fears, their traumas, their stories, their own identities. Like, they're going to be seeing me through all of their own filters. So I, for my own self, what I had to kind of redefine was less about caring about what other people think and more about not being stopped by their judgments, because everybody is just sharing their experience of me. And what I think is fascinating is that, and I would love any of you that put rejection just to speak to this a little bit, but I think it's fascinating that the rejection piece for a few of you was why you were not showing up authentically. But in that process, were you not rejecting your own truth? So inside of our desire to show up in a way to try to control the behaviors of another person, to act in a way that will help us to not be rejected by someone else, we then reject ourselves for them, for their approval. So no big deal, just selling a little piece of your soul. That's real. Yeah, I was really good at bottling it up until it bursts. You know, we think that we think that we're better at hiding things than we actually are. So this has already been covered. How do you express authenticity in my fitness? It's a really good question, especially for me based on my journey with fitness. No, it has not been covered. So Elena, what has shifted for me personally, I used to work out because I hated myself. I used to work out because I did not love what I saw in the mirror, and I felt it necessary to whip my body into shape. I felt it necessary to go hard and to be aggressive and to be intense, and I would look at and inspect what was wrong, right? Like this thing here, this here, and the muscle here, lack thereof, or how are my abs? And let me tell you something that I used to do. So we're being real. I would essentially like choke myself so that I could assess like if I felt like my face was getting too fat, right? Looking at myself sideways in the mirror on my profile and trying to see from behind, and how do I change everything that was not perfect about my body. And I used to train. So I used to personal train, and I taught fitness classes, and in that energy, and this is what a lot of people, I think and this is a little bit different than authenticity, but they're related. In the perfectionism, right? The tricky thing about this that makes it a little bit more slippery is that there are benefits to it. So it does actually serve in some ways. And so I would use that energy and I would breathe belief and love and celebration, and you can do it. And I was like a tough kind of driving physical fitness like trainer and like challenging people to go beyond their limits and do things that they didn't think they were capable of doing, but it was, and not consciously, especially toward them, but at the core, Elena, it was rooted in self-hate. It was rooted in self-hate. So what has shifted for me as I really healed my relationship with me is now I move in a way that feels good to me and to my body. And sometimes that means I go for a run. And sometimes it means I do Pilates. And sometimes it means I do yoga. Sometimes it means I take a walk. Sometimes it means I do small, like 20-minute kind of high intensity interval training. But there's a lot more love and a lot less anger in the way that I treat my body in terms of fitness. I honor what this shell that houses my soul does for me and how she carries me through this world. And I treat her with that, and I'm with that respect, and I move in a way that feels good to her. And I've shared this before, I believe, on a live, but I check in with myself. How does it feel to be me right now? How do I want to move? Sometimes it's to go for a bike ride, right? And I let that be right because it's what my body and my soul want, versus me saying, no, you haven't lifted weights since, you know, whatever ago, and that's not okay because your arms are going to get flabby and all of that shit. I don't do that anymore. So authenticity for me is about being real with what feels good to me. And it's changing. It's constantly and continuously evolving and deepening and expanding. And what works for me on Monday in the morning is probably not going to be true for me by Monday evening. So do you have thoughts? Does that answer your question? What about you guys? It's not really a subject that I'm super passionate about. I don't know if you guys could tell. Let me know your thoughts. I can be complete if you're complete. It may not always be easy, but it's 100% worth it. It's better than the life I wasn't living. My moment of it actually, and for those of you that get offended by this, I'm just going to warn you. I'm going to say the F word, the cuss word, the 4-letter word. But my moment of probably one of the most, so I have a lot of like micro shifts that are pretty seismic for me, but along my journey, one of the most significant shifts that I made was in 2016. And I just had this moment. I was actually on a coaching call, and I had a moment where we had just moved, and I was filthy dirty and hadn't showered. I mean, I judged like crap. And I was just having another of what what I called at the time, like breakdowns. And I was having them frequently. Like I was having them, I don't remember now the exact timeline, but it was probably every couple weeks where I was just having like an emotional meltdown. And what I realized on this coaching call is that I just couldn't do it anymore. And so my moment of surrendering into authenticity was actually not this high level, super like, evolved moment. It was this moment of pure surrender where I leaned on one of those electrical boxes and I just said, fuck it. I'm done. Like, I'm done. I am tired of pretending that everything's okay. I'm tired of pretending that I'm happy when I'm not. I'm tired of pretending that I have it all figured out. I'm tired of pretending that I love this business that I'm in. I'm tired of pretending that I'm happy in this relationship. Like, I'm done. I'm just done. Fuck it. And it wasn't this like powerful, like, yes moment. It really truly was like, I don't know, almost this moment of everything else I've tried hasn't worked. So yeah, let's try this. And that was just in 2016 in the summer. Oh, yeah, absolutely, Elena. I would love that. Yes, done. Somebody, I think it is Alex, a friend of mine, and maybe it's not hers, but that's where I've seen it, I believe, is that like everything, I'm going to paraphrase, but basically like everything great or everything that you want or everything powerful or everything beautiful is right on the other side of those two words. Just that moment of like, I'm done fighting. Right? I'm done trying to like hold this thing up, this weight, this mask. It's just, and I really do. I don't get your version, but I get and I can connect with my absolute like, oh shoot, who am I now moment. Like I really remember that interim, right? Of like, okay, so if I'm not this person anymore, like over here, and then I'm not yet this person over here, the space between. But for me, I learned to redefine my relationship with that interim and enjoy the discovery process versus wishing I could just leapfrog from here to there, or better yet, just pretending that it's easier, pretending that the lie is easier, pretending that the life that you're not living is easier, pretending that you're okay choking off your own soul, pretending that you're okay living your life, never having really lived your life. And if that's your choice, I'm not here to tell you that you have to choose differently, but I do want to encourage you to own it as a choice instead of pretending like you didn't have a choice, because that part is bullshit, because it is a choice. And when it is a choice and it is your choice, then you have the opportunity whenever you are ready to do so to make another decision. And so if you are choosing to not honor your soul truth, what reason? And there might be a lot of reasons. I know some from clients that I've spoken to and from personal coaching that I've had in my own life where it was a intentional and deliberate choice, and I get it and I honor it. So it's not, hear me on this, it's not a definite always this way and never this way. There is, I think it's an art, and I think it's the more certain and clear that you are with your own self, and the less attached you are to the opinions of other people, then the more free you are to show up authentically, and the more free you are, the gift that you're able to give yourself to just allow the you be to be expressed. Thank you. Yeah, it is a process, Lauren. Absolutely. Can I share the first time I remember Acting in a way that's inauthentic. Hmm. I don't know if this is the first time, but what comes to mind for me is being being told that what happens in our house stays in our house, right? And that, you know, we're not to discuss our we're not to discuss our problems. And I also think, you know, I have a lot of memories of my beautiful mother, my teacher, and the inspiration for so much of what I do on this planet. But I have a lot of memories of her not behaving in ways that let me know that she felt that she needed to change who she was in order to fit in or be liked or approved through, you know, things that she did with her clothes or with her physical body or makeup or hair. And none of those things, again, are inherently wrong. I actually love makeup. I'm wearing it today. There's color in my hair. I would imagine that's pretty obvious. I don't think that those things are wrong or right. Like there's a law to them. I think it's about the energetic come from. Why are we using them? Are we using them to hide, or are we, is it a choice because we like it, right? Because we enjoy it. So those are the two memories from when I was younger. And then when the older I got, I mean, the story just, it was perpetuated. I mean, I lost touch with who I authentically was. Like, I just learned that it wasn't okay for her to come out. And that was because I attacked myself when that part of me did. Like, I didn't allow it to be okay, right? And that completely shut me down. But nobody would know. Like, a lot of people that were in my life at that time, if they heard that story, they would, and I know this because I've had conversations with not everyone, but quite a few of them would be like, really? I had no idea. And absolutely, because I had gotten very, 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 very good at the facade, right? Very, very, very good at perfecting the protective exterior. Very, very, very good at saying the right things and all the right cliches and looking in the way that I was supposed to look and sounding really, really, really good. But the whole time knowing, like, the words, it's almost like I was started to become, and this was a process I used to not know, but then you start to like wake up and you start to be able to see. And then it's like, I was almost having this out of body experience where I was like watching things come out of my mouth and watching the way that I was moving or the things that I was saying and being like, that's not even, like, you don't even, it's like what's that movie? The Stepford Wives, right? I don't know if you all have seen that or not, where it's like, are you even human? And to the outside world, like, if you've not touched that authenticity in your soul, and it's in there, it's just about reconnecting with it. You're not broken, you're not busted, you're not damaged, there's nothing wrong with you. It's just a disconnect. You're trying to, you know, connect with yourself through the wall. It's just when you have that experience of it, when you've really seen it, when you've really felt it, then you notice it everywhere. But when you're armored up, you don't even realize that you're armored up until you meet somebody that chips at your armor, or you meet someone that helps you take your armor off, and then you realize the shit that you didn't realize was going on because it had just been the way that you've been living your whole entire life. If your parents yell and scream at each other every single night when you're a kid, you don't know that that's not okay until you go to someone else's house whose parents don't act like that. So that's the thing with inauthenticity. A lot of times, because it's developed from a root and the source of protection. We don't even realize that it's there until we get a glimpse at something different. It's way more probably than what you asked me. Hi, Kim. Hi, Carol. Hi, Michelle. So yeah, whoo, lots of passionate rants here. Do y'all have other questions about this? It's only everything. I used to think it wasn't possible. I want you to know that too. I don't know if you can relate to that. But I used to think that people who moved through the world in the way that Lauren described earlier, right, just not really caring. I had so much admiration for these humans that I thought were like unicorns, like these magical, mythical creatures that like I knew they existed because like I had met one or two, but I just didn't think or believe that it was possible for me. Like I knew that people could do it, but I did not believe that I could. I didn't believe that I could ever. If you asked me in 2016, if you asked me if I thought that I would be moving through the world in the way that I am, if you asked me if I would be doing Facebook Live videos with no preparation beyond, only my life, right? But no technical preparation. If you asked me if I would be leading an event or a workshop where I went over notes, but I didn't rehearse them, or if I would record videos with my hair completely not done and zero makeup and like bad lighting and entirely too, because I'm super intense, I'm like really close in the camera. If you asked me if I believed that I could get through hard emotions without the use of drugs or alcohol, I mean, I would have told you that I thought that sounded good, but I didn't think it was possible. I mean, not for me, for some people, I'm sure. Yeah, we don't recognize the protection until we see something different. And we don't know. That's why it is so important. That's why it's so important to have, a coach. It's why it's important for you to have somebody in your life who can help you by holding up the mirror to what you cannot see. Absolutely. Yeah, Elena, thank you for asking. Yeah, thank you for asking. It's how I lived most of my life. I mean, like at this point, really probably 41 years. So, and it was a process. Lauren said that earlier. It is. Again, we don't go from here to like over here. It's a journey, and we celebrate the process. Like we celebrate the progress, so that we want to continue along the journey. But it's how I lived most of my life. I didn't know another way. I just thought that's how you were. I thought that's how you moved through the world. I thought that's what you did. Right? I mean, my bows had to match, my socks had to match, like everything had to be perfect. And the problem is that it separates us because there is no such thing. So in our attempt to create that facade, all we're doing is pulling ourselves away from the people that we are trying to connect with, which if we're trying to stay protected makes sense. But it's just, for me, there's so many people that are spending so much time and so much energy and so much money building better, bigger, stronger walls. And in reality, what needs to happen, and this is what I get excited about, and honestly, if you hang out with me for probably more than like 5 minutes, I'm really going to do my best. I mean, I really want to light a match and for your freedom, burn the whole fucking thing down. And I get that I can't just go around setting people on fire. Like, I know, but I want to. For your freedom. Man, if I knew in 2013, like when I very first like reached out for support, if I knew then what I knew now was possible in me, I'd have ran full speed. Like I'd have canceled all my plans. I would go. And that's the problem. And it's actually one of the most just challenging and just moments inside of what I do for a living is helping people to see what they do not believe is possible. But what I do know and what I source my faith from, and what I really want to encourage you to ask yourself is this what I came here for? Am I really, truly experiencing the life that I came to, whatever your religious beliefs are? Like, am I really, truly experiencing the life that I came here to live and to experience? Because I remember having a moment driving to work and just with my hands on the steering wheel, putting my head down and thinking, is this it? Is this all there is? And so many of us are in that space, but yet we are waiting for somebody to come and rescue us. We're waiting for somebody to throw us a lifeline. And most of the time, even if they do, we'll smack that away anyway, because we want to stay in our story, like Erin shared earlier about, well, I'm unlovable, or I'm not enough, or people don't like me. And you giving me that opportunity to get out, like, oh, no, I'm more comfortable in my story. It takes courage. It takes courage to be authentic, and it takes courage to be vulnerable, and it takes courage to show up as the real you and to share your truth. It takes courage, and every time you do, you give somebody else the permission to be able to do the same thing. But when I started to think about it, you could say it's hard compared to what? I mean, compared to what? I am not okay going to my grave having choked down the truth of my soul. I am not okay with that. And if you are, then own that choice. That's a really good question, Candace. I'm laughing because of my response. So Candace said, in your opinion, how do you balance appearing professional with being authentic? Me, I don't care about appearing professional. Not anymore. And I think a lot of that depends on appearing professional to who. So if this right here is the, if this is my story, like the full spectrum of my story, that's not even, is it? If this is the full spectrum of my authentic story, like this is all my truth, I might bring this part of me into a room, or I might bring this part. And in some rooms, I might bring this part. In other rooms, I might bring this part, or sometimes this part right here. And I believe that as long as I'm in my story, I am still being authentic inside that conversation. But that doesn't mean that every audience gets every single part of me. So a lot of that is assessing what's going to serve the people that are in the room and in the community, and in what spaces am I just like, no, I'm the most important person. And there are some spaces where I've invested money and I've invested my time and I've invested the space and the scheduling where I'm like, I'm going to show up as me, period. I don't give a about anybody else or their feelings inside of this, or if I seem professional. I don't care, because in that moment and in that space, that's not important to me, and that's not always the case. So if I'm having a conversation on, so I'll give you a good example is, so I cuss, and right, so I know that might be shocking to some of you, but if I'm doing an interview on a podcast, or I'm speaking to somebody else's crowd, or somebody brings me into their community, I ask them if that's okay. Because I can have conversations without doing it. So I don't think me not cussing is me being inauthentic in that moment, because I'm doing what's going to serve the community and the crowd, and I can still be true to me and the way that I feel without having to exhibit that particular behavior. I had the same issue when I was waiting tables, right? Even if I was deep in my feelings and in my stuff, the people that are coming into the restaurant, that wasn't their problem. They were coming to have a dining experience. So that didn't mean that I had to like go over the top and fake it. I actually don't love that phrase, fake it till you make it. I don't think that I would be like, oh my gosh, hi, how are you? Yeah, because that's not how I felt. But I didn't have to be so deep in my feelings. I could ask them if they could be on pause while I just showed up for the people to do the job that I was there to do, to maintain my professional decorum inside of that situation, because that's what the space and the room called for. Does that answer your question? That's a really good question. And it depends, because every individual is completely different. Hi, Kirsten. Hi, loves. One of the hardest things about the shift into living authentically is the people around us who've become comfortable with the inauthentic person we presented for so long. They can't handle who we really are. Amen. Yeah. It's the, I don't know, Ari, if you were on Ari earlier when we were talking about this, it's that like if I meet you inside of my like not me self, right? Then you get to know the not me. And then as I unbecome that, not only may you not like me, I actually may not like you, because the not me that I was being is who liked you. And that is, that is scary. I remember being at a retreat in 2018, I believe it was. And I remember being nervous about that, about going home and about showing up inside of my relationship in a new and different way. And the biggest thing for me was the recognition that I knew I could not go back to the way that I was. And it's like, once you've experienced that, right? Once you have had that taste, right? Like you can't unsee what you've seen. And so that was the biggest fear to me. It wasn't that I was going to go back to the me I used to be. It was knowing that I could not. And navigating that space is absolutely scary. And it's worth it. And some people will grow with you. That's been my experience. Some people will grow with you. And then there will be other people who will not. And then we have a choice. And it's, do we choose to stay where we were to make everybody else happy and comfortable? Or we choose our authenticity. Do you have the willingness to choose you and your authenticity when faced with disappointing another person? And I stayed in a career that I did not love for longer than I wanted to because of that. And I've maintained relationships for longer than I wanted to, really secretly inside, because of that. So yeah, that's real. That's real. Hi, Amanda. Hi, Amanda. Candace, did I answer your question? Yeah, freedom. There's 25 comments and I have a call in 6 minutes. This obviously is a conversation we need to continue. I know it's gonna sound weird to say this, but I love hearing you share about your inauthenticity because it really is how much of our lives have been spent. When I hear how aware you become, I build more trust and rapport with you. Yeah, absolutely, for sure. Elena, we just haven't talked a lot. Yeah, absolutely. Yes, to all of that. Yeah, I'm glad, Michelle. Are you also in YouTube Live? I'm not, but I really love all of the push for, this will be on YouTube, but I'm not on YouTube Live yet, but it is actually on my list of things to do. Yeah, pick your hard, Kirsten. Whoop, whoop. That's it. Yeah, pick your hard. Pick your hard. Shoot, that's so good. Yeah. I remember my friend Yolande saying a few years ago, your like is extra. And I love that. Yep, I agree, Amanda, with what you just said. Amanda said, I think sometimes people take advantage of your authenticity and use it against you, especially if you're being real about your weaknesses. Yeah, absolutely. And we don't have any control over anybody else's behavior, which is why the work then has to be done for how can I be okay with and be good with me in spite of how they behave, in spite of what they do. And when they show me who they are, then I have the opportunity to believe them and love them where they are and let them go and not make what they did mean anything about me. And that, from my experience, takes time. That's the process. Yeah, absolutely, Carol. That's it. You happen to me a lot. And it's a choice. Do I want to stay? And there's nothing wrong with either, but do I want to stay in the role of being the victim? And all this stuff is happening to me. All these people are doing things to me. I can't be me because of all of these other people. And again, I'm not saying that the factual things that you're saying aren't true. I'm just saying I don't want to be involved in that conversation because there's no winning for you inside of that conversation. You want to be in a place where you are empowered. And if I say I'm making a choice to continue to be in this relationship, or I'm making a choice to continue allowing this behavior by staying, or I'm now making your behavior mean something about me, that's on me, and I have control over what I do with that, and I can work with that because I can work with me. Oh, you're welcome, Kirsten. We did say the other word earlier. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can choose. That's really smart. You can choose your words and you can still be real. And it's okay to feel the way that you feel, and you don't have to, you can choose the way that you're expressing it. Yeah, awesome. Choosing the parts. Yeah, instead of creating a pretend me, this is the full version, right? The whole big deal. What are the sections that I am gonna bring in terms of serving the audience, right? And say no to other people's happiness. It's not your job. So let me know, because I genuinely have a call in 2 minutes. Is this a conversation you guys want to continue? How can I invite my friend? Yeah, so you could share it, or you should be able to tag her. But once this goes live, like once I'm done with the recording, then you can share it. Like you can send it to her directly. It's a choice on how we handle ourselves. We can do it maturely and honest or not. But yeah, it's just easier when we show up as who we really are. It is more impactful, it is more connective, it's less work, it's less exhausting, there is more joy and more fun, and even in the pain that you are feeling, it only feels that way because you have spent so much time not feeling, because you've spent so much time behind the plastic, behind the wall, behind the suit, underneath the mask, because you spend so much time. It's like when you get when you have a cut or like a sore in your mouth and the air hits it for the first time and it feels like, whoo, because it's the first time it hit it. So when you do take that off and the air hits your vulnerable skin, it absolutely does have the power to take your breath away, but you have so much ability to be able to settle in and rest in that. I love you all so much. Thank you for your engagement. I have to run. Please keep the comments coming. And if you believe this conversation would serve another soul, please, please share it. Thank you for today. This was powerful for me, and I certainly hope that it was for you as well. Be well and take care. We'll talk soon. Bye.